Everyone excited for PRI? All right, it's unbelievable. This is, out of all the trade shows I've been to, this is just what I've seen here. So many people coming together. I feel like it's one big family. And what we're going to be sharing today is about how to build your brand and business simultaneously. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the things that bring people together that are going to help build your brand. And then in that case, also scale your business to the next level. I would just like to see on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rank yourself in terms of where you are in terms of your brand strategy? -4. Somebody warned me about that, but I wanted to just make sure. So we have a -4. How about anybody else? 6? 0. 5. All right, so we're more below the 5, right? No worries, no worries. So what I'm going to be doing today is kind of think of it like if we're building a house. If you were building a house, what does that house sit on? A foundation. So I'm going to be sharing with you today more about building that foundation. So what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is the process how you can start to build that foundation to be more compelling, more influential, and then tapping into the different things that you can do for brand image, logos, and certain things that are going to make you stand out. But in the beginning, it's got to be something that you have to be compelling to them. I'm going to share with you ideas and different processes that you could go about doing that. Now, from what we just shared, how many understand that have done this at that point? Something along the lines what I just shared, where you've shared information and you have allowed somebody to draw their own conclusion and impacted them in a way that they feel like they want to take action and want to know more. Sir, go ahead.
So before I got started, I own Operational Speed Supply. It's a retail business based out of Clarksville, Tennessee. Before I got started, I had built my car from the ground up in basically a carport on a gravel driveway. And so sharing that story with people gives them the understanding that I've been where they're at.
There you go.
Building the race car as shade tree as possible and going out and being competitive and being able to put down lap times that are comparable to other cars we've built in a shop allows them to kind of understand and relate to me at a personal level, like, yeah, I know how that guy feels.
There you go.
It's brought a lot of repeatedness back to us.
What he just shared, thank you very much for sharing. And your name is?
Josh.
Josh, thank you very much for sharing. Does that make sense to you, what he just shared? Think about it as people. When we relate to other people, are we going to relate to something where no one could do no wrong? Everything is perfect and everything is going to be, by working with me, we're going to set the world on fire. Now think about it in the real world. Is that really going to happen? Come on. But we relate to real people. We relate to real situations. That's how people buy into the vision, the thing that you're trying to convey to them. See, here's the thing that you're going to get from today's session. You, as people in your business, are more than what you do. Your brand is more than what you do. It's why you do what you do. What does that mean, why you do what you do? When you think about that. You know what you do. You're the business that you provide, whatever you provide to the end user or to somebody in your supply chain. But why do you do it? Not just you, but your business. Why do you do it? Why are you in that business? Is it just to make money? You're in this business for some reason. Go ahead. It's a passion, right? You're in this business because it's something you love. So it's more than just the product or the service. It's that why, the values in which we're going to talk about. And I'm going to share with you on how you can bring that why into your brand to really then stand out and be unique. So let's go driving. All starts with how we think. So what do we mean by that? How do we think? If we're thinking a certain way, do you think that's going to reflect in how we show up each day to be? And then we become that? And then when we become that, we do certain things. And when we do certain things, then that leads to certain results. The question is, are we achieving the results that we are looking to achieve? Now, I'll ask a question on a scale of 1 to 10. Where would you rank yourself in terms of where you desire to be in terms of results? If you're looking at marketing or branding and influence or marketing itself in your business? Where would you say 1 to 10? 2, okay? We're going to move that needle up. We're going to move it past 5 by next year if we come back and I talk to you guys. How about, we got a 2. How about somebody else? 7? All right, great. Great. What would be some things that you're doing if you could share? Because we all learn from each other. It's not just me sharing this information.
I actually come from a father who has put 49, almost 50 years into the dirt, and I'm just...
So it's in your blood, right? So there's something about, there's values there. There are family values in there. Do you think people relate to family values? You think somebody in this room relates to family values? Yeah. Not everybody. I mean, some people care about their family, don't get me wrong. And we look at this, being in this industry like we're a family. But we're all going to have various degrees of how people look at that. That's why we're never going to be everything for everyone. But we don't have to be. But I'm glad that you shared that. It's a legacy, something that you'll pass on now to the next generation in your family to continue this business going forward. And I bet when you said passionate, I bet there are a lot of people. Would it be safe to say there are other people that you, maybe perhaps in your family, that they were in this business as well? Is that safe to say or no? Few of you? Okay, great. All right, so let's talk about why thinking is so important to be. How are you thinking right now? Is the way you think right now in terms of how you think in your business, is that allowing you to be a certain way to then become and then do and have different results? Think about it.
All right, so how you think is how you view, right? And depending on your customer base, if you don't change your view, right, you can have the same passion, right? But being able to change your view from like a customer or maybe another vendor or another business line, or looking at it from like maybe a different sector or maybe a different position in a business, difference between a marketing and your CFO or whatever. But your view and your lens will shape on all your thinking into the future.
Yeah, because again, we don't want to conform and just please and enable our customers. Think about that. If we do that, where's that going to lead? What's that word? That big E word that a lot of times we get frustrated about when it doesn't go our way. Well, there's entitlement, but there's another E. Expectations, right? So if we are constantly trying to cater to people's expectations, they're going to raise the bar. Now, I'm not saying that you don't conform. You have to be able to meet what the client is looking for, but you still have to be true to who you and your people are, your culture that you're creating. Again, you're not here to change anybody. You're not here to convince somebody. You're here to empower them by sharing not only what you do and what you provide and how you can help them, but why. Because it's the why that's going to drive the what, but it's also got to start with how we think. See, how you think individually and how you be from that to become, to do, and have, that's going to impact other people you work with. Now, if you are the owner of your company, the people that work for you, if you work for someone else, it doesn't matter if you're the owner or have the top title in your company. It just matters that you as a person are being the example of that. Because it's like with anything, things are contagious. If people start to see that people are thinking in a different way that not only benefits them, but it can benefit other people, do you think that's going to impact people to maybe look at themselves, to maybe think that maybe I should be thinking differently? Go ahead.
I've always thought that businesses don't grow, people do.
There you go.
You actually said the business grows as a byproduct of the people.
Yes. Was anybody part of the breakfast thing this morning, the kickoff from 7 to 9? Where you heard Roger Penske talking about what is the most important thing to move a business forward. Does anybody remember what he said? Your people. Human capital. People. But see, in order for to develop the people, it's got to start with you. See, we can't change anyone. I can't change you. I can't change you. I can't change you. I can be up here sharing, and perhaps something I say today might impact you in a way to go into yourself to see, does that resonate with me, that I can maybe look to make a change within myself that could impact why and what I'm doing in my business to project our brand and business in a different way. That can happen. But that means that you made that decision, not you. So it's empowering the people that you serve, which starts with the people that you work with, then the customers that you serve. And I'm going to share with you some examples with some companies that do that and why their business is doing well, why their business was even doing well during COVID versus ones that were not. It's not because, and they could be in the same industry, but why are they ahead of somebody else? Thinking is powerful when it comes to branding. And a lot of times we take it for granted. So again, we're talking about the foundation. So what can be ways that we can be thinking better? If we think better, what is that going to lead to? Number one, if we're thinking in a more clear way, what does that mean? More ideas. More action, efficiency, productivity, better choices. It's clarity. When we have clarity, what's a result of clarity? What would follow after clarity? There's strategy and direction, and that requires what we call focus. Because if we're scattered and we're all in these different directions, getting pulled in different directions, is that really going to serve our business? It's the businesses that stay in their lane, that are focused each and every day the way they think. Let me give you a little inside secret to this and how you can do this as a team. Now, I'm a big sports fan. We were here in Indianapolis, the Colts here. And, the Colts, when they're on the field, they're going to be in a huddle, right? They're going to go into a huddle to call a play. How many of you in your business, regardless of size, have a huddle? What do I mean by that? Bill?
I have a meeting with my staff every morning. Everybody hears the same thing at the same time. It's a trick I picked up from Rudy Giuliani reading his book.
Beautiful.
He had a staff meeting every morning. Everybody got to talk. Everybody gets to listen. Everybody hears it. There's no way you can misunderstand it.
So it wasn't a meeting just to have a meeting, because a lot of times has anybody had experiences where you go to meetings and you feel like this was the biggest waste of time ever, right? And that's a lot of times what we get out of that. But it doesn't have to be that way. It can be what we call like a huddle, where it could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to make sure that we are on the same page. Does that mean everyone's going to be thinking the same way 100% verbatim? No. But if we are aligning ourselves in a way that we are thinking clearly together, just like what everybody said, we're going to be more likely to come up with better ideas. It's not who came up with the idea, it's what idea is best for our brand and business, regardless of who came up with the idea, through clarity and focus. Number two, you're going to be more efficient. In today's world, we have so much going on and things getting thrown at us with the technology. There is so much information, it's overwhelming. We have to be able to be clear and focused in order to decipher what information that we take to move our business forward. Otherwise, we're going to have that self-induced ADD that is going to take us off track. Great brands and great business they know how to stay in their lane, and they know how to be clear and focused and make decisions. Does that mean that all those decisions are going to be right? No. Is it okay to make mistakes? Yeah. But if we repeat them over and over, that's a different situation. But we learn from mistakes. Failure or mistakes are part of the process to build a successful business, to sustain a business, to build a successful brand. I remember I had the privilege of talking to Richard Branson, and I asked Richard, you have probably over 300-400 businesses under the Virgin brand. Are all those businesses successful? And he says, no. And he says, a lot of times we've had a lot of challenges and setbacks. People only hear of our successes. They don't hear about our struggle. They don't hear about some of the businesses that did not work. But see, they were blessings in disguise for him, because some of the businesses that actually failed, that didn't become public notice, by the way, actually they learned from, that actually helped them to grow other businesses. Now, I'm not using that story in this case here, but I'm talking about anything that was a mistake that did not work out doesn't mean that's a failure. These are things that we can learn to grow and move forward. And this is how we build successful brands. So how we think on a daily basis, being that example, will impact other people to do for themselves. And what Bill brought up, having a meeting every day. Now, I know Bill because I talked to him beforehand. That's why I remembered his name. And this is how we can be on the same page. Would it be safe to say, Bill, because of the meeting that you're having every day, that I'm not saying it's 100%, but the communication is more specific, clear, and concise, not based on 100% assumption and speculation?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody gets to hear it. Everybody gets to ask questions. They have their opportunity. Like I said, it's 10 or 15 minutes. It's not 30 minutes long, drawn out. We talk around the room. Boom. Okay, it's time to go. Let's go. Everybody's got their task. Let's roll.
Great. So think about that communication. If you are communicating in a specific, clear, and concise way, you are leading by example in your business. Do you feel that that's going to reflect to the outside eventually, to your customers, the people you serve? Yeah. See, people, just think about like when you were a child growing up, and you don't even realize that you observe the actions, behaviors, and the communication of your parents. In a lot of ways, that what you have observed, you pick up and bring into your adult lives, whether that's going to serve you or not. And there were many things that served me well by growing up, learning from my parents, and things that I did not, that I had to correct. But nonetheless, it's the same thing in our businesses. What we are becoming each day shows up in what we do and shows up in the results in terms of how we do it to impact others. We're not here to tell people what to do. We're not here to convince people. We're here to influence them. Brands and businesses that are successful long-term are the ones that use the power of influence. You are sharing information. So what Josh's point, him sharing the story, that story goes a long way. Now, how could he share that story? He shared it with you guys right here today. He might have shared that maybe at an event that maybe he spoke at one day. Maybe he shared it on a podcast. Maybe he shared it in a mastermind group, within your industry. Whatever. You think that's going to impact somebody in that room? At least one person on some level? Yeah. It just takes one person to multiply into others and so on. So that's what we're going to talk about. So think about thinking as now the underlying layer of your foundation. This is the beginning step, that how we think. So how are we thinking in our organizations? You can't tell people on your team how to think. That's going to be up to them. You just have to create an environment through your example and through the resources that you provide and allow them to develop on their own. Those are how great organizations are developed, how great businesses start from within and then reflect outward. So it's how we think, to be, to become, to do, and have different and better results. Doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect. Matter of fact, you might have more obstacles or setbacks, but you'll begin to see them as blessings and opportunities disguised. I can look back at all the things that went wrong in my business, and the way I was thinking could have took me either direction. I could have been right out of business because I would have just continued to drive myself down the rabbit hole. Or I could have said, okay, this is happening. What am I learning from it? What can I be grateful for what's happening, for what is going to happen in a good way at some point in the future? I can't predict the future. But what can I apply and what can I control right now to make that happen? Oh, somebody's got some music going on, Christmas music. All right, so real quick before we move on from how we think, what are the things that we can control in any given situation? Emotions. She just said emotions. Our thoughts, okay? What was that again? How we respond. Good. Time, okay? So here are the things that we can control each and every day as an individual, and then if we are working together to reflect, to build our business and start to build our brand from within, here are the 5 things that we can control. Our communication to ourself and other people. The more specific, clear, and concise we are, we minimize assumption and speculation. When we have assumption and speculation, that leads to miscommunication, that leads to resentment, that leads to things not getting done. It leads to a more codependent environment. Great brands do not operate from codependent environments. Think about your family. I came from a codependent family. That's why I know all this. I learned it from just personal experience in my own family. And I had to learn over time how to become more interdependent. What does that word interdependent mean? What does that mean? Interdependent.
Working with different independent companies or individuals to have a greater result.
Okay, absolutely. So, but that's got to start with you. So interdependent, think of it like independent, where you begin to, you take full responsibility for your role and duties, and whatever that is, and you maximize that. You are accountable and responsible. When you can be the example and be a resource for others to do the same, that's what creates an interdependent environment. That makes communication gets more clear. There's less micromanagement. There's less things that are going to fall through the cracks. Does that mean everything's going to be great and perfect? No. But you're going to be able to have more clarity and focus to solve problems, to not manage the problem, but to solve them and create solutions. That's how we build our businesses. That's going to reflect in our brands. So we can control our communication to ourselves and others. We can control our behavior. We can't control somebody else's behavior. Control your own. You can control your attitude. What is the attitude of you and your organization? You can control your emotions. Now, you said thoughts, but thoughts, think about it. They're like it's like the ocean coming into the shoreline. We can't stop that. Thoughts are going to come no matter what. But we can choose the thoughts that merit the most attention to focus on and respond to it, which somebody said respond, in a positive emotion. That's also going to reflect in how we convey ourselves through our brand. See, our brand is more than just an advertisement in a magazine. Someone speaking on the stage, or somebody heard you on, some industry, podcast, whatever that may be. Your brand is everything that you do each and every day, each and every one of you. You're a reflection of that brand of your organization. So it's how, again, how we're thinking. So emotions is that emotion you can choose. So if something upsets you, you're making a choice to be upset rather than looking at it in a different way. How can I look at it for what it is, and how can I solve it? These are some of the things that if we are able to really master this over time individually and create an environment within our organizations, we can create better synergy to create more interdependency that's going to expand our brand and business for the better. And finally, the last one is course of action. We could all control our course of action. Now, the 5 things we can't control are direct opposite of what we just said in another person. We can't control that. But think about it. How many of us you get overwhelmed, feel frustrated, feel stressed, feel anxious? Why do you think you're feeling that way? Because something is not obviously working to the way you would desire it to be, right? Why? But that's because your mind is caught up in something you can't control. Some other person didn't do what they were supposed to do. You're caught up in trying to change something that's beyond your control, rather than focusing on what you can. Again, how we think is going to reflect in how we show up each and every day in our brand, with our business and brand to grow simultaneously. So, all right, we covered enough on thinking. Does anybody else have any questions so far from what we've shared on thinking as that underlying layer of building the foundation for building a successful brand in business? How we think. Okay? So next, we're going to look at the next layer of our foundation, values. What are values? When you think of values in your organization, what is that? Why would that be important in a brand? Okay, what's important to you? Okay. So what would be some example of some values? Quality. Honesty. Integrity. Absolutely. That integrity. Here's my 3 values that signify who I am are transparency, honesty, and integrity. Just like Josh shared about the story, a personal story where there could have been some setbacks, challenges. That's transparent. That this person isn't perfect and ideal like how they project it in their brand. They're a real person. They're a real business. They have their challenges. People relate to that, not to what everything is perfect. That's the things that separate great brands from average brands. We're being real. So again, it doesn't mean you have to be transparent by any way. But what I'm saying is, understand what your values are. Does that mean that the values that are true to you are everybody else that are on your team, or the clients that you serve, the customers you serve? You think they're going to have the same values? No. But can we connect on shared values? Yeah. There could be some synergy there. So if somebody values being ethical, somebody values being trustworthy, somebody values family. Now, family doesn't mean your own family. It can mean just, hey, I love being in this room because everyone's in my industry. That's important to them. Them being involved in their industry. It's like family. But you think that those values can relate to my values of being transparent, honest, and integrity? We can relate to that. But again, there are going to be people who have values that are going to contrast my values. And that doesn't mean that they're a bad person, nor me, but that doesn't mean probably we're not going to be doing business together. And that's okay. We're not going to be everything for everyone. So the key is the brands that really understand their values. Your own values and as a business. But here's the trick here. Just because you have values doesn't mean that because you have them that everything is going to make it better. You have to become that, just like we talked about thinking. I know several organizations that will have their values listed on a wall somewhere when you walk in. Hey, these are the values that we live by. And then I'll spend a week there, and I'm going, I don't see any of these values being demonstrated whatsoever, at all. It's very common. I go in, and that's what I do. I go in a lot of times and help them to fix that. Because they're checking a box off. See, checking a box is not going to move your business and brand forward. What's going to move it forward is taking those values and actually being them, becoming them, doing it every day, and not just every day when you're working, but every day when you're not working in your personal life. When I talk about transparency, honesty, integrity, that's not just me in my business. That's every day as a father, as a husband, as a member in my community, a member in anything. It's how we show up. This is what impacts other people to do the same. This is what creates a winning team. This is why when you have certain teams that win on a consistent basis, is because they understand their value system. They communicate very specific, clear, and concise. They think in a different way. And their brand and their businesses are sustainable. They win. That doesn't mean they win every time and they lose, but for the most part, they come out ahead more often than lose. Think about it like a sports team. I always like to use sports because everyone might understand what sports is. You look at some teams that have great talent, and yet they don't have winning seasons. They got 2 or 3 guys on that team who are some of the best talent in the league. Talent in itself is not going to win. Talent in itself is not going to build your brand. It's the discipline and the consistency with your foundation, the basics. Kobe Bryant always used to say, he would get up at 3 o'clock. He'd get up at 2:30 every morning and be on the basketball court at 3 o'clock. And he would be doing drills that you would do when you were in 3rd, 4th grade, when I learned how to play basketball. So why is Kobe Bryant, a player like that, doing the same drills that you'd be doing in 3rd and 4th grade? Dribbling, free throws. You can get better. Basics. You can never go wrong with the basics. It's your foundation. There you go.
The pros just do the basics really well and better than the rest of us.
There you go. They do it every day. Now, I'm not saying it's 7 days a week, but it's consistent almost every day. That's the key. This is where values is so important, and oftentimes we take it for granted because we get caught up in the image has got to look good, and I got to have this fancy logo, and we got to show them how great we are. No one really cares about that in the beginning until you've given them a reason why. That's not going to be sustainable because someone else is going to come in with a really slick-looking logo. They're going to do some kind of thing that's going to wow somebody more than you did, and now they stole your thunder. What's going to make that sustainable is, again, that relatability. Not only to you, but more importantly to them. How you make them feel. What is important to them? That's what keeps a customer doing business. How many of you ever been in a business, or maybe you're experiencing this right now, that you are always caught up in price? Oh, it's too expensive, and now you're lowering your price. Has anybody faced that? Or is that that's not an issue in your business? Or is it? Yeah. So think about it. Because now you're in the transaction business. And I don't know about you, but I got out of the transaction business over 20 years ago and never looked back. I don't play the transaction business anymore. My business, what Roger talked about today, Roger Penske, it's about human capital, it's about people, it's relationships. When you can forge through your brand and your business solid relationships, you're going to begin to see over time that all of a sudden price isn't as important as it was. Now, I'm not saying that you could still charge thousands and thousands of dollars more than the competition, and they're still going to stay. But within reason, they won't mind paying a little bit more because they believe in you, because they feel like you believe in them. But that had to come first. That had to come first. That trust, that credibility, quality, commitment. All of this stuff goes back to this, values. Go ahead.
How many businesses in this, in this room do you think, percentage-wise, maybe we should do a show of hands?
Yeah, let's do that.
Are engineering based, where they create a new product from scratch, versus they're a middleman and they're, just retail.
So they don't actually make the product; they facilitate the relationship.
Right. So how many engineers versus?
How many are engineers or building products from scratch versus middlemen? Okay, so we got seems like there's more people that would be middlemen that I'm seeing right now. But there are people in the room that are, yeah.
Because the reason why I bring that up is, and I hate to steal the spotlight.
No, again, we all learn from each other. I mean, I'm sharing information just like you are.
So I'll just try to be quick. I come from cars, love cars, everybody here does. Corvettes have been my life. When the C8 came out, I had already had experience modifying the C7s, either whether it's buying somebody's existing part or making something from scratch with the C6s and C5s. So when the C8 came out, the one thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to lose weight from the rear end of the car because I didn't like the weight distribution of it. And the diffuser, the underneath where it comes up, like the McLarens have those beautiful carbon fiber arches and the air comes up smooth. I really felt like Chevrolet dropped the ball on that. I liked everything else about the car except for the diffuser. And so what I've decided to do is I started a business out of nowhere. And to do the diffuser, first thing we had to do was we had to build a different exhaust.
Yeah.
And I'm just like a one-man show in the beginning, and then I work my way to find, okay, who can build me a 10-pound titanium exhaust instead of the 80-pound, exhaust that comes OEM on the C8 Corvette. And then, okay, now once I get this exhaust done, now I'm going to be able to build the diffuser because the stock exhaust was actually in the way of those McLaren arches.
Yeah.
So I only bring this up not because what you're saying isn't true at all. Everything that you're saying is true, but I feel like my step ones for a foundation, it was all that kind of stuff. It wasn't really any of this yet because it's just me.
It's just you, but here's the thing. You have a great idea. You have a great idea. And there's a lot of people that have great ideas. Matter of fact, you guys have an idea that you're working on. You have an idea. But the thing is, people are busy. Are they going to listen to your idea? The only way they're going to listen to your idea is till you give them a reason why. You could have the greatest thing in the world, the greatest idea, just waiting, and they're not going to see it because you haven't given them a reason why. So it's got to be more that you're not connecting just with what you can do to revolutionize and change this. It's going to be something to do with the relationship that you're going to forge with certain people that can help you to either build a prototype for this or put yourself on a platform like this where you could talk about what is not what's missing, where there's a void.
So that was what I was getting at, is my point was everything that you said, in my opinion, is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Just getting at the fact that we're talking about branding and all these different things. To me, step one is more so, what's the problem that you feel that
Oh, yeah.
no one else is solving?
Well, that in itself, that's a different thing, because we're talking about branding in business. But you are right. That you got to be able, if you're developing a business plan. I work with startup companies where we develop business. It's got to start with the problem that you're going to help them to solve. You're not going to solve it for them. You're going to help them solve it for themselves. And she's got a question too. And real quick.
Now, your thought process on how to do that, coupled with this, even though you're by yourself, your culture starts before doing that. Right. All your employees, anybody that you hire, they're going to see you and be influenced by that. So even before you have the foundation, even before you're doing marketing, how your thought process, yourself, when you bring people on, that is setting up your culture.
And absolutely, and I was super picky
Yeah.
when I decided who I was going to use to build the exhaust.
Yeah.
There were several different people, but I've just been around the block enough times to realize, okay, I can't do business with that person for whatever reason, or I can't do business with that person, I get a bad vibe.
Yeah.
And just really being, I'm very blunt when I communicate with people, and I warn them of that. I say, listen, I just like to cut to the chase and be super blunt. That way, if we're not going to work,
Well, you save yourself a lot of time. But you're being true to who you are, and there's nothing wrong with that.
so once I find other people like that, it's just everything starts to jive, and then we can get a lot of.
Well, that's where this will help. I'm not saying that you put this to the side and try to solve the problem. You could be working these simultaneously together, but not losing sight of this. We have two other questions. We have the lady here and gentleman here.
So part of what he was talking about being a one-person show, what I've learned recently is that it really starts to grow and to be a better business owner. It starts with that thinking that you don't have to do everything.
There, yeah.
And so it's pushing that envelope of in my head, as I owned my own business, I was making all the product, I was doing all the marketing, I was doing all the web, I was doing all this because I felt like I was the only one that knew how I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So part of that growth and that moving forward piece is letting someone else take the reins on things.
Absolutely. Well, just like what Bill was talking about his meeting. I mean, if Bill had a meeting and everyone's sharing, and Bill's just like, okay, good, thanks for everybody, and he just did what he's going to do and disregard, negate what everyone, is that going to build a winning culture? No. But he lets his team participate. That whatever idea is best, what the team unanimously decides on, that's what they're going to go with. If it doesn't work, well, we tried and we move on and we learn and grow and we try something else. Go ahead, sir. Thank you for sharing, by the way.
I've had a chance to work with a lot of small businesses to help them get things rolling. And a lot of people get confused between the product and the business, because the product is a business.
Yeah.
How even what you do, the service is a business. And as we know, a lot of small businesses, they're really good at whatever they do.
Yes.
They make a great product, they do a great thing, but the business never gets off the ground. And it's a shame, because you lose out on something that
Absolutely.
So his product is amazing. So what you're saying is the business side, which is the crucial piece.
Absolutely. You could have the greatest product, the greatest service, but if you're not doing certain things like this, no one's ever going to know, because you haven't given them a reason why. And sometimes it has nothing to do with what you're doing in the beginning. Yes, sir.
Should your values change over time? The reason I ask is because the business I work for right now, they're shifting from a smaller mom and pop business, to truck shop, to we just bought an old factory that's now huge. You're talking 2 football fields size, and we're hiring on more people, and it's shifting way.
I'd say that again, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to share. You get to decide. But would it be safe to say that those small, that mom and pop type, values have been successful up to the point where now you're looking to grow, right? It's not losing those values. It's just now finding different ways, different processes and systems now to expand that. Not deviating from those values, because that's what those values have really built a footprint for you wherever you started. And now it's kind of like, think of like, this is not in your industry, but you think of like Chick-fil-A. Why do you think Chick-fil-A has been so successful? What was that again? There's their pleasure. But then again, there's those values. Again, I mean, I take the religious thing out of it, where they're closed on Sundays to observe the holiday, to observe Sunday for church and all that. It's the values. It's how they develop their people, how they develop these kids to become future leaders. It's not making chicken sandwiches. Wait, their chicken sandwiches are that phenomenal, that's why people go there? No. There are other places that have, well, maybe so-called have better chicken sandwiches. But it's again, their environment. They built a brand based upon the inside out.
Honesty doesn't change whether you have 2 employees or 1,000.
Exactly. So I would say to answer that question, I leave that up to you, is to stick to those values. Just expand your systems, delegate and find ways that you can multiply now and be able to manage more with more people, but staying true to those values. All right, go ahead, sir.
Would you say you may not get rid of them, but you may add new values as you grow? So
Yeah.
if you're based upon, say, honesty, integrity, everything there, but now you grow, you may be adding other values.
Absolutely. If that is true to where you were evolving to, absolutely. But if you're just adding it to check off a box, but there are a lot of people that the businesses, that's what they do because they feel like, oh, I got to have values. We got to display them. But if you're not living it, you're not creating an environment that executes that each and every day, subconsciously it comes out in the wash with your clients, with your customers. They pick up on it. And I don't know about you, like I said, all of you are in the relationship business. What you do is secondary. That's what's going to separate you among other things. Unless you have some product that is so unique and they can't get it anywhere else, and you're not selling Q-tips, right? Where people could care less if they buy X, Y, Z or this, they're just going to buy Q-tips. This is about relationships. This is an industry built upon a family. I get that feeling that when I'm in here. It's like a family. Ma'am, you had a question. Sure.
And anybody and everybody can say that. It's what you portray to your customers.
And that's what we're talking about here. It's not just saying it. You got to be it. Absolutely. The words mean nothing. They mean nothing. It's your actions. It's just like how when you think. If you're not being it, then it doesn't matter if you say, hey, I thought about it. But if you're not being it, that it doesn't do anything. And your values are meaningless if you're not taking action with it.
Real quick check is ask the people that are doing business with you what you think our values are. Find out what you think.
Absolutely. And find out what their values are. But more importantly, ask what their values are. You'd be shocked that when you can determine what their values are, how that will help you with your brand, marketing, and advertising strategy. Coming up with ideas that subconsciously connect with them. I do this with startup companies when we do their business plans and their executive summaries and their pitch decks. And getting into the mind of an investor. Because investors are not just looking, I just want, how much money am I going to make from this? Yeah, that obviously is going to be important. They wouldn't be putting money into something just for the sake of it. But you'd be surprised that I can look back at the companies I invested in, whereas not only because of the product, that was, don't get me wrong, I'm not negating that. But it was because I connected and trusted the founder of the company. The person who came up with the idea, the person who was going to run the business, or the person that was going to put in somebody else that knew who can scale that business and was honest with him or herself, and it was from those values. That's where I put my money. Now, sometimes I didn't even know that subconsciously at the time, but I look back, absolutely. So true. All right. For time's sake, I want to keep everything on track, so we're going to move along. Thank you for everyone participating, by the way. Again, this is how we all learn from one another. So these are some common core values for businesses. Again, this doesn't mean every business is like that, but again, this is just, every one of you gave some ideas of what your values are. But one thing I would recommend is get honest with yourself. Bring your team together. Find out the values. Maybe you already have values, but are they really the values that are true to you or what you've been led to believe? Now, I'll give you another interesting point. For the first 30 years of my life, I operated from my father's core values. And they weren't my values. And then I wondered why I was miserable, why I was cranky, why I was always pointing the finger at everyone else, why, my businesses were constantly struggling. Just because somebody else's values work for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Be true to your values. You. So here's an example of some core values of a company, Keystone, company that's in this industry. Now, again, you see some of these values here. They list this on their website. I looked at it. But then I began to look at and really see, does this company really execute on this? Now, are they going to be 100%? No one's going to be 100%. But it's how you're showing up as an organization. When we look at commitment, is that commitment just from a business sense? What about the commitment to your community? What about the commitment to your industry? People could be committed to their customers, but are they committed to their industry? Are they committed to the communities where they have business? Are they committed to charities? If they say that they have integrity or they're giving or whatever that is, but if they're not involved in certain things, then why are you saying that? It's the organizations, just what you said, ma'am, that they're taking the action, that people see this directly related to their business and indirect. There are many things that you could be doing in your business that have nothing to do with what you do that could be helping you move your brand and business forward by doing things from values that are indirect. I know a woman who was in, again, separate industry, but she was in the real estate business, and she did some charity work for an organization catered to family values. She had strong family values. Her business was so stagnant at the time. But people loved her content. They loved the values that she represented. The thing is, they didn't know what she did. They knew why, but they only missed an equation. She got the most important part right, but didn't connect the dots yet to what. When people began to find out she was a realtor, they began to do business with her based upon why she did what she did, which had nothing to do with real estate. She grew her business by 40% in a year and a half by connecting the dots with that other charity work that she was doing. She did it through the charity work. People began to reach out to her from there. Had nothing to do from what she did inside that cubicle at a real estate agency. Had to do when she was contributing, doing the other stuff. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, in your situation. I'm just giving that as an example. But just to plant a seed, to begin to think that you are more than what your product is, what your service is, and in your case, that you may have had the greatest idea to help revolutionize something in this industry, but no one's going to know about it until you give them a reason why. And then when you connect with the right people, and the right people that can help to facilitate that, that's what's going to make a difference. That's what's going to get you out there, where then you can brand that idea.
So, one thing, values, I think, start with self-awareness.
Yes.
One thing is, you can state your values, you might even believe that they're your values, but if you're stating your values are quality, but you're driven by the bottom line,
Yes.
then they don't align. And that all starts with being aware of yourself. I think it's a good idea to talk to your customers and stakeholders.
Absolutely. He had a great idea. Absolutely. I know for me, when I work with somebody, I always determine what their values are, because I want to see if it's going to be a fit. And if it's not, I'll say very honestly, I don't think that that I'll probably be the right person for what you're trying to accomplish. But I do know somebody that I feel will, and if you're okay, I'll make a referral for you, if that's okay. Because I'm doing it from integrity. I'm doing the right thing. I'm not here just because I want to add another business to my bottom line. Could I still help them? Sure. But am I really going to help them to a level that someone else can do a better job based upon that connection with No. Because it all comes back anyway. I'm a firm believer when you operate from values, what you give away, it comes back somewhere else. You got to trust. It's called trusting the process. Same thing in business. And you reflect that in your brand, I've seen it over and over, the brands that understand it and execute every day. It works. It's trusting that process, controlling what you can, letting go of what you can't. Again, I put Salesforce in there. We're not going to do that. But let's look at your values. Again, we're not going to have time to go through this whole act. This would be if we had a full-day workshop. But write down right now, or even in your phone, what would be a couple core values that would represent your business? And do it from your perspective, too. So write that down. And then ask yourself later when you go back, how can this show up in why you do what you do each and every day? How can this impact your communication to your customers? How can this impact your current marketing and advertising that you're doing now? How can this show up? You don't have to go out and say, hey, we come from integrity, or we're focused on quality. You don't even have to even sometimes mention the words. It could be other ways of putting it out there that people, when they read it, they get that feeling, oh, quality, integrity. I can trust them. That's what's going to get people wanting to know more about what you do. What's going to keep them coming back. So, how many understand what a value statement is? Everyone's familiar with a mission statement, right? Does everyone have a mission statement in their business? Would it be safe to say, or no? It's okay if you don't. Everybody have a mission statement, for the most part? What do you think? So what about a value statement? You'd be shocked that most businesses don't have a value statement. Because a mission statement tells people what you do. But a value statement shares with why you do what you do. You ever been to like a networking event and somebody just comes up and they feel like they're just like vomiting all over you and they tell you what they do? Yeah, I'm a financial advisor and I blah, 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 and they do it and you're like, whatever. No. But if you shared a story of something that how you helped somebody or helped a business overcome something and shared the story without even mentioning really kind of what you really do you think that's going to be more powerful than just what you do? Is that going to resonate with somebody? Yeah. Again, that's where those values come out indirectly. So a value statement is understanding why you do what you do. It's everything we talked about, knowing and being your values, creating a culture that you live by and operate from each and every day. Those are the organizations that will come out ahead in the long run. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, expecting different results, again, that's the definition of insanity, as Albert Einstein said. We have to allow those values. People connect on values subconsciously. It's subconscious. We don't even realize that we're doing it. This is why, like I said, in your case, there might be certain people, if you're blunt and straightforward, some people are going to be maybe put off by that. And some people are going to say, I really like someone that can be straightforward and cuts to the chase. But yet he's honest. Someone's going to appreciate that. The question is how many people you're talking to that are like that, and it's going to take one of them that's going to then want to know more as they develop that relationship with you, what your idea is and how that might be they can be a part in helping you to make it happen. Whether if they're an investor, whether if they have the capability of manufacturing the idea, making a prototype, whatever. That's the difference. All right, so let's look at knowing your audience, target audience. So just like what you had said before, if we have an understanding what the values are of the people that we serve, we're not trying to be one size fits all. I see this all the time when people with marketing. Their marketing is like one size fits all. It doesn't have to be that way. Marketing is more than just an advertisement or something that you put, whatever. It's again how you show up. It's how you're showing up here at this trade show. When you go out there and meet people on the show floor, if you have meetings, it's how you be. You're marketing, you're branding and marketing every time you're doing that, not even realizing it. Go ahead.
Gentleman over there brought up the point that you might think you have good values, but what you're actually doing might not be. And now that we're segueing into
There you go.
Because that makes it to where you are a liar. That makes it to where you are, deceiving people or
Well, that's the perception. That's codependent because you're saying yes. You're going to say yes to oh, yeah, we can do that.
Right.
We can do that.
And that goes back to why I tell people up front, I'm blunt. A lot of it's human nature that you want to ask people, okay, as we work into a deal, I want you to do this, this, and this. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll take care of
Yeah.
that. And they're not going to do it.
Exactly.
And so now it's like, okay, let's call a spade a spade. That's a lie. You just told me a lie. And so when I get around people that, oh yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, no problem. Da, 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 I know in the back of my mind, BS. When you get around somebody when you say, okay, can you do this? And they say, I can't do that. Here's why. Boom, now I know I'm dealing with an honest creature.
Well, there you go. But again, when you connect in those values, those are the people that are not going to tell you yes and not follow through, but are people that are going to follow through on what they said. And you're not wasting your time. And how many of us have wasted our time with people that told us yes? Probably a lot of us in this room. I've been there. So again, it's when we can really put this and create it. Everything I'm sharing with you is from a strategy standpoint. You guys are going to get in the other sessions today the things that you can facilitate that, like how to set up your website, how to make changes on your website, your social media, how to do things, create certain, do I advertise here? You're going to get that all later. That's not what I'm sharing here. I'm sharing the foundation that's going to set the stage for everything else that's going to allow you to facilitate that later. Because if you try to facilitate that without having a foundation, it's like throwing mud at a wall. And a lot of times you're going to throw a lot of money away. I've seen it happen over and over again. People spending money, not seeing the results because they didn't take the time to do this stuff. It's like with anything. You got to build your foundation before you build out the framework and then fill it up to build that, whatever you're trying to build. Okay? So create your influence factor. So what does that mean? Remember we talked about influence is not persuading someone to see your point of view. You're not telling people how to do something. You're sharing versus telling. You're empowering them through your message, your story, something that empowers them to take action or see things for what they feel they see it as. So what are some things that you could be doing to create an influence factor? Like now for me, you see me up here, I'm speaking. Now I've been speaking for 20 years. This is a strength that I have. I love to speak. I've been doing it a long time. And even though I've written books, I'm not a great writer. So you're not going to see me putting out books and sharing ideas how people can better influence others and market themselves better. It's not my strength. I'm going to leverage my expertise and my influence factor up here. I do this on industry podcasts. I do this on industry shows. That's where I leverage. So how is your business taking advantage of those platforms to leverage that content? You're not talking about your company. Nobody's coming to hear about your company. They're coming to hear about something that they could help figure out, they could solve a problem in their business or in their industry. And you're the person that is giving information that might spark an idea and help them to see that for themselves. Do you think that once that you connect with them on that level, that a light bulb's going to go off and they figure out, just like I gave you the real estate example, that, what you do might be able to help me. You think they're going to be more interested in what you do now to help them? Yeah. And that's going to build now a foundation for a relationship that can grow and become more. Because when that person does their part to have a better experience with your product and service, what's going to happen when somebody does their part in taking advantage of your product and service as a result of everything we talked about, and they have a great experience? What are they going to do? They're going to share and refer people. Now, we all know that referrals are the best. That's how we build businesses. If we're constantly marketing and marketing and marketing and throwing mud at a wall, is that going to work? No. All right. So, what makes your business compelling? Go ahead.
I just want to back up for just a second. So the influence factor is using your strength.
Yes.
Right? To create a positive interaction.
Yep.
So would the same be true that if you aren't using something that is a strength, that you could then
You could. It depends. Yeah, but I mean, but again, if you're leveraging a strength that you're able to share information and it comes off in a really positive way, you're more likely not to do that. Like for me, even though I've written books and I've done well, I wrote an international best-selling book, but I'm not a good writer. That's not my strength. If I kept putting out books to connect with my audience to help them, it's probably not going to be a good use of my time. I'm not really helping them. I'm helping people more when I'm up here. So it's getting honest with. Now, that doesn't mean in your organization that maybe you're not good at that, but somebody else in your organization is. Who are those people that could be the point person for you to do that? Maybe it's bringing somebody from the outside. You've seen brands do that. They'll bring in somebody that's not really part of their company, but they became the face of their company. Now, again, that's on a mass level if you're looking at a national or global-based company. But you could still do this even with a small business in your industry. Again, coming from those values. So what makes your business compelling is really, really important. It's not about what you do. It's about the problems that you're helping to solve, to help them solve. But to his point, you're not promising, yeah, we'll solve your problems. Because if you don't, because what you're setting yourself up is you're setting yourself up for a codependent relationship. Oh, I don't have to do anything. Your product and service will do everything and solve all my problems. What are the chances of that happening? No. They have to do their part. The way you're going to the way for them to do their part is by influencing them to be part of their own success through your product and service. But that connection through everything else has to be the thing that gets that going. Okay, we'll move forward because I know we're coming up towards time here. So these are some steps that you could prepare a value statement. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my contact information here at the conclusion, and I am happy to send everybody a workbook that will help you to do this. Complimentary. If you send me an email, I will send you this thing which will show you how to prepare a value statement that you could add to your business. I don't care if you're just starting out, you've been in business for 15 years, you've been in business for 50. Doesn't matter. This will help you. So the key is that, again, you got to determine your value. Your values and then the value that you're going to be giving out each day, each week, each month, each quarter that you're connecting with your clients. How are you doing that? Is there things, are there different forums that you're part of where people interact and share information? Are you showing up there and contributing, sharing information? That's marketing. A lot of times people don't think that's not marketing. Sure it is. Because if you're not there, somebody else in your segment is. And if they're getting more of a share of the market, that could be why. Again, it's leveraging, to your point, leveraging the people, their strengths and weaknesses in your business. If you have 5 people in your company, you have 50 or 100. Finding the people, what do they do best? Are these people being utilized in a way that they could be marketing you in a way that could be setting yourself up ahead of other people in your segment? They might even know that's even a strength. They're doing it in other ways, but if they were then to channel it in some other way, that could be helping you to market yourself even better, brand yourself in a better way. So the steps to preparing your value statement are going to really, again, without having the workbook with you guys, is that you're going to have to really determine your values, know your value. You're going to have to be able to really understand for the best you can, how people operate in their business. Getting to know them. Taking that extra little time to research their culture, how they make decisions, what's really important to them. You'd be shocked that most people never go that extra mile to find that out. They just assume what they think is important. And we all know what happens when we assume. We think we know what's important. And sometimes that's not what's most important to them. In some cases, they may not even know what's most important, even themselves. But if you are connecting with them, sharing information, You're allowing them to see really what is important to them. And when you can determine that, now you're able to close them in business. I call that enrollment, by the way. So there's a big difference between selling somebody and enrolling someone. And now the subject of our talk is not about that today, but enrolling somebody is empowering them to draw their own conclusion to do business with you, not that you persuaded them and it becomes transactional. Relationship building through this type of foundation could help make the difference in elevating your business to be more sustainable over time, and then building off of those relationships. So think of yourself as a trusted advisor. So when we talk about a trusted advisor, it's not just a person. This could be your business. So think about if you looked at Roger Pinsky today, right? He runs several companies. Was Roger up there, if you were in that session, was Roger just toting about his company and what they do, all his businesses? No, he was talking about human capital. That's pretty much what he was focusing on. Values, people, family. Not little family, but family as people in this industry coming together. That's what he focused on. But those are the people that, Roger's got a great name, obviously. He's been doing it for years. But you think that was like that in the beginning? It took time for him to build that up to the success that he had. But this was a gentleman that built his value. Not only did he have a passion in this industry, but he built it from those values. He was able to attract people that were very similar in helping him to do that. It wasn't all on Roger. There were other people involved that did that. They had similar values. And they created a culture that allowed that brand to develop from the inside out, outward. So as trusted advisors, you're out there doing more than what you do. What other things can you contribute to your industry? What are other things you can contribute to the communities where your businesses are located? For some of you, maybe you have more than one location. Maybe you have satellite offices or buildings or manufacturing facilities or whatever that may be. It's why are you doing what you're doing? Putting that out there, being more than just your product and service. This is what's going to help to sell your product and service. Trusted advisors, this is the secret that all companies or individuals understand as being a trusted advisor, is that ability to connect with another human being, connecting with people. One to one, one to few, and one to many. And we're going to discuss some of the platforms that you can do that. So before we start, who would be some of the trusted advisors in your industry? Who do you think? Again, that doesn't have to be somebody well-known. Anybody like to volunteer? Who would be somebody that you looked up to that is more than just what their product and service is or what their business is about? Your father. Can you give an example about your father, if you don't mind, more than just what he does and what impact he had in this industry with other people?
He stuck to his core values so much that some would think he was very behind.
Okay.
Didn't take the opportunities that were there. But he has put a lot of favors in the favor bank and is believed that it's coming back around, and it has been coming back around.
It's coming back around?
But it was hard.
Okay.
It was many years.
All right. Sometimes it happens because sometimes we have to be able to execute on that, but maybe he didn't have that, and that's okay. We have to learn. So it's not just everything we talked about. We have to learn how to execute now on that to turn that into business. Now, that's a whole separate topic that I do, which I can't cover in an hour and a half. That's on enrollment. I don't use sales. I spent 25 years in sales. I know sales very, very well. But enrolling people in your business is much different than selling people into your business. Enrolling is through values. It's through sharing versus telling and persuading. It's about but knowing how to ask the right questions and then get those people to see what their true challenge is, what's really important to them, and then asking the question where they enroll themselves in your business. And then developing that and nurturing that through service that in time becomes a steady customer. And when they become a steady customer, they refer people. That's the key. So there's got to be an execution on the back end. But if he's just learning that, that's fine. But there's got to be both. There's definitely. But I'm glad that you shared that. Anybody else like to share real quick?
I think it's important that you don't just focus on the people in your industry.
No, oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
For me, I have a lot of people that I look up to as business owners and
Yeah.
whatever. It may be that they're in real estate or they are selling whatever.
Absolutely. I only did, absolutely. It does not have to be in your industry. If it's somebody else that you can model, not that you become them, don't adopt their values or become like, that doesn't mean you're going to be successful. But it's taking what you feel resonates with you and then adapting it to you and the culture that you have in your business, in your industry to make that happen. Use it as a benchmark. Use it as a guideline. Yeah, it doesn't have to be your industry. Absolutely. So here's an example of a trusted advisor. I guess a lot of people are familiar with this gentleman. And, someone not only who's passionate in his business, growing up with, around this industry and having a passion for it, but again, that built a brand from his own set of values and developing a team. You think like he did this his brand was built just because of him? No. It was other people that were part of his team, people that worked with him in all different capacities. So this is the thing that, again, a trusted advisor is not something either as an individual or as a company that we do once in a while. We do it every day. It's how we show up in our business, how we show up in our communities, how we show up in our personal lives. Because nothing becomes consistent if we're not doing it all the time, right? If we just turn it on, it's like the person that projects themselves to be this, oh, they can do no wrong, and look how great they are. And then behind the scenes, they're doing completely the opposite. Their life is a mess. That all comes out in the wash. The more consistent that we are as trusted advisors, that's what connects people. This is what's going to position your organization to brand yourself to get more opportunities to perhaps speak at this event because you have something that can help somebody reshape their businesses. You might see something that can help people to do business in a different way, that they get to choose that. I'm up here sharing this from the outside perspective. I'm not just in this industry. I service other industries. But the fact that you're in this industry, you could be doing something, leveraging platforms that could be adding value as a trusted advisor. So let's take a look at that. Before we do that, I'm going to discuss the 5 I's of influence. So we have 5 I's. Insight. Insight means that you are on top of what's going on in your industry or whatever segment that you serve in your industry. You're up, not only do you know it, but you're applying it each and every day. See, knowledge is great, but if you're not applying it, that's all it is. It's knowledge. But the more that we are on top of what's going on and how we can share that information to help others is going to set yourself apart from other people. So if you're out there and you're quiet and you don't say anything, well, somebody else is going to do that. Now, if you're not that type of person, who in your organization is that can help you do that? Right? Or finding someone that from the outside that can do that for you. It doesn't have to be somebody that actually works for you. You could hire somebody or subcontract them. You see this all the time with major brands that do this on commercials, right? You don't have to be, so don't avoid it because that's not a strength of yours. Your message and why you're, just to your point, what you're doing, if nobody knows about it, then that's what's going to happen. Your idea is just going to go, it's great insight, but it's not being applied. It has to be out there. Initiative. Initiative is being proactive, not reactive. It's seeing what's trending in your industry. It's seeing where's the void, where are the challenges that you can solve. This is what great trusted advisors and brands and businesses are to do. They're not over-promising, to your point. They're not claiming that they can solve every problem or a certain problem in your industry. They're sharing that we have something that we believe can do something better. Now it's up to you to decide if you agree or not. We're not over-promising. Influence. Again, it's not about persuading someone to see your point of view or to tell them how to go about doing something. It's sharing, again, your story, something that they can relate to and understand, that they feel that you're talking to them, that allows them to draw their own conclusion, to take action, what that means to him or her, or to that company. Impact. Impact means that the consistency. We're not doing this once in a while, that we're doing it every day, directly and indirectly in our business. Directly with what you do and indirect why you do what you do. Both. And then, of course, doing it from integrity, meaning that sometimes we got to be honest with ourselves. If we feel like there's somebody who might be better suited for that customer, that we do the right thing. Because I always say, when you give without expectation, you receive without resistance. It comes back. Write that down. Give without expectation. You do that from empathy and kindness, by the way. Don't do that from pleasing and enabling. You go out of your way to please or enable a client, you're setting yourself up for expectations that go unfulfilled, and it's going to be a miserable situation with a customer. Be the example and be resourceful to help them help themselves. That is more impactful over time. Give without expectation, receive without resistance. When I give up business to someone else, knowing that someone else will better serve that customer, it comes back somewhere else. It always does. It might be tomorrow, it might be next week, it might be 2 years from now. But I have KPIs that I measure, and I see it happen all the time. Key performance indicators. We only have a few minutes, so but go ahead real quick.
I was just going to say, I feel like all this can be shattered real quick with social media if mistakes are made.
Yeah.
And back to the overpromise, underdeliver thing, it can just be as far as, hey, we'll get that shipped out to you and you'll have it next Friday, and instead it takes 3 weeks.
Takes 3 weeks, especially with the things that are going on with shipping and around, yeah.
And that'll destroy a business because that person gets on there, and now when people look you up, they determine that all this is bad, you see.
Yes. So you got to be careful, like, again, coming from those values, not getting involved in certain things that could set yourself up. Real quick, and we'll go, because we got 5 minutes.
Answer on that one, that's always communication with customers.
Yes.
As long as you're communicating, hey, this is what's going on, this is where we're at.
And you got to be very and you don't just assume that they got an email. You go back and ask them, is there anything I can clarify? Because you can't control what they're going to perceive.
And you can't control tracking right now.
Yeah.
You can give them the tracking number, here you go, but you can't control
Exactly.
being delivered.
Exactly. And you're not, again, you can only communicate and again, you're not there to please and enable them. So again, the more upfront you can be, the better off. Again, nothing is going to be ideal and perfect here. There's going to be situations that sometimes that people perceive it in a different way. But you do your best to kind of manage that. All right, so I got a few minutes, and I got to go over a few things. But here's some things that I'm going to leave it off on here. I had a few more slides, but because of time, we're not going to be able to finish. But this is really the most important thing. Find a way for your organization, regardless of size, to leverage your content. The more content that you are putting out there is going to elevate your brand and business to another level. Me and my own business, and now I do executive coaching. We do business consulting. But in my business, my content is on LinkedIn every day. It's on other platforms as well. I speak on virtual industry events like this. If my content is always out there sharing. If somebody Googles something on brand or influence, or something on leadership, or something on communications, oh, there's Chris Salem. He spoke on that on this podcast. He spoke on that on this podcast. He spoke on that in this podcast. It's there. But I'm leveraging my strengths. Remember I said I'm not a writer. So you're not going to see a lot of blogs from me or a lot of articles. but you're going to see a lot of verbal content on podcasts, radio shows, virtual summits, trade shows, events like this, where people tap into. And it takes, and those people, if you resonate with somebody, again, those values that are operating from beneath, which they don't even know it consciously, that's what's going to set yourself apart. Find how you can leverage your strengths, whether if it's you or somebody in your organization, or hiring someone or subcontracting with someone to help them do that for your organization. That is what's going to help you to set yourself apart. And then everything you're going to learn today later about how to facilitate that with your website, through social media. I didn't want to go into all that because you're already going to get a bunch of that later today. Now, with that being said, we got only 2 minutes left. And real quick, before I take any last-minute questions, there is a QR code behind your seat. It's like right on the seat there. Now, if you could take a photo, just take your camera. Matter of fact, I know the people in the front row can't see it, but if you could do it from right behind wherever you're sitting, there's a brief survey. Your feedback not only helps, it doesn't just help me, but it helps PRI to really bring in other content providers that are going to help share information that can help elevate your business to another level. And this is going to be for all the speakers that you're going to hear today and tomorrow and so on. If you could take it shouldn't take you more than a few minutes to do that, but it'd be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, if we got about a minute, I want to be mindful of time and your time. Any last minute questions I could address for anybody here? Anything that comes to mind? Yes, sir.
How do you handle when, let's say you have an employee who doesn't keep with your values? How do you handle that employee?
Yeah.
How do you handle if that employee leaves and then
Starts talking. So one of the things that you could do, you can't, again, control what somebody's going to do, but what you can do is, again, sit down that person and find out what's really important to them. You know, do they understand their role and duties? Maybe there's something that they don't understand, or maybe there's something they feel they're being underutilized. Again, that is a whole separate discussion I do on communication, on effective communication and building winning teams. I do that as well. I do that for a lot of organizations. But you got it. That comes down to the communication. You got to sit down with that person and make it not about what they're doing wrong. You make it about we. What can we do together to make this better? You do really well at this. Don't use that word but. Don't use that word however, because that negates what you just said. You do this really well. What can you and we together make to make this better in the organization? Now you're putting them on the offense, not on the defense. And you may find that they maybe had a resentment of something. Who knows? That now that they feel like, wow, you're really listening to me. You really understand me. See, again, those values. When people feel related to and understood on whatever level that is, they're more likely to open up and volunteer more information that you can determine what's getting in their way, what's holding them back, maybe perhaps in a situation like that. Now, if they leave and they start bad-mouthing, there's nothing you can do other than just, again, being true to the values, how your company operates. So if people see it, hey, I don't see their business that way. I've never had an experience like that. This guy just might be a disgruntled employee for whatever reason, and it's just going to go away anyway over time. But you don't get caught up in trying to control what you can't control. Just stick to what you can control each day individually and in your business from those values. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. If anybody has a question, you could come up here. I'll be happy to answer it for you.